Please welcome to the stage Antonio Zappulla, CEO of the Thomson Reuters Foundation.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Trust Conference. It feels so great to be here with you today and to welcoming you in person. So let me tell you, since the last time we met here at Trust Conference in 2019, it's been a bit of an interesting ride. So much has changed in the way we interact with each other, in the way we work, in the way we prioritize things. And back at the beginning of the year, we took the decision to host Trust Conference in person. We wanted to provide an opportunity for people to come together, to get to know one another, and to benefit from an in-person global event after more than 2 years of remote interactions. Because we all know it, nothing beats the personal connection. But back in January, COVID was raging, so we didn't fully know if this would have actually materialized. Hundreds of people meeting in this beautiful venue in the heart of London. But we made it. And so this room today holds an incredibly diverse group of speakers and delegates. You are in the company of more than 500 people bringing global expertise, cutting-edge innovation, and unique frontline experience. Together, you have the power to push the boundaries of what can be achieved to address some of the world's most critical issues. It is your insights, your drive, your passion that will ensure that the discussions and the debate taking place here on stage will lead to real impact and real change. So thank you for being here, and thanks in particular to those of you who travel far to be here with us today. Whether you attended the Trust Conference before or whether you're here for the first time, welcome. You're in for a very powerful experience. It's no exaggeration to say that in the past 3 years, the world has changed. We're now facing a critical level of uncertainty. Less than 2,000 miles from this very room, war is raging. In Ukraine, multiple war crimes are being committed and documented, and the threat of a nuclear attack has never been more real since the Cuban Missile Crisis. The global economy is in turmoil. The cost of living has skyrocketed, and managing it has become an urgent priority for individuals, for businesses, and for policymakers. Many economists are now predicting a fallout as severe as the financial meltdown we witnessed in 2008. A meltdown, let's remember, that was also triggered by reckless financial practice. Around the world, authoritarian governments are tightening their grip on independent journalism and civil society. Civil rights are being rolled back even in countries that traditionally have been considered as beacons of freedom. Meanwhile, data has become the ultimate currency, the most valued asset in the world. COVID accelerated this trend, and as a result, millions of people globally are now giving away their personal data with little to no understanding of what that data is being used for, its value, or the rights they have over it. The term AI has become mainstream and fashionable, but only a few experts can still understand, predict, and mitigate the direct consequences of machine learning on real life. We've also seen blockchain emerging as the technology of the future. Blockchain has gone beyond being a technology for financial services. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other currencies are making a lot of people richer and poorer, depending on the day. But beyond cryptocurrencies, excitement about blockchain is gaining momentum. And that is because its capabilities are challenging the web as we know it. This alternative iteration of the internet built on blockchain is known as Web 3. And on Web 3, the ownership of technology itself is decentralized. Data is portable. Internet searches are private. Information is verified in real time. The acceleration of this technology in the past 3 years has been staggering and shows no signs of slowing. And then, of course, over the past 3 years, the catastrophic effects of climate change have been all too apparent. From fires, to droughts, to hurricanes, to floods, the climate crisis has become so widespread, so tangible, and so horrifying that it is practically impossible not to recognize that we have an emergency on our hands. And so governments around the world are injecting trillions of dollars into the green economy at a time when, especially here in Europe, we are reminded daily of our dependence on fossil fuels and the geopolitical implications of such dependency. This global shift to a green economy could create 40 million jobs by 2050, or 2.5 million new jobs every year. But this transition to a new, greener economy is a difficult one to balance. And that's because as we reduce the use of fossil fuels, we need to ensure that we don't leave entire communities behind and that we don't create new avenues for labor exploitation. This approach is known as just transition and is one that, together with the ESG framework, has also gathered momentum over these past 3 years, garnering supporters and, of course, skeptics alike. But you see, all these issues, sustainability, socioeconomic inclusion, human rights, democracy, and media freedom, are deeply interrelated. And that is because free and independent media holds governments and business to account and empowers citizens to make better decisions for themselves and for their communities. This leads to more inclusive and sustainable societies where opinions are not silenced and where human rights are upheld. Societies where journalists can report freely and professionally are safer and certainly more inclusive. Institutions are also more transparent and accountable, and power and resources are distributed more justly. You simply cannot create fair and open societies if citizens are not empowered by knowledge. In fact, you simply cannot create a healthy economy if journalists are not allowed to report the truth. Media freedom is the backbone of democracy. At the Thomson Reuters Foundation, we protect media freedom. We foster more inclusive economies, and we raise awareness of human rights. We do so because these three issues are dependent on one another. And so every day, we work to foster free, fair, and informed societies through our media and legal initiatives and through convenings such as this one, the Trust Conference. We all know, because we are witnessing it, what happens when independent journalism is silenced. As individuals, we are disempowered. As a society, we are divided. When people don't have access to factual and unbiased information, they lose agency. They cannot make informed decisions. They cannot vote freely. They cannot hold power to account. They are more at risk of being manipulated. They are more at risk of losing agency. This is the thread that runs through the content that you will see here on stage at Trust Conference across these 2 days. Today, we look at how the flow of information and data impacts on the distribution of power around the world. There is a lot to unpack, from the critical role of fearless and frontline journalism to lawfare, an emerging trend where the law is weaponized to silence journalists. Data and blockchain will also feature as part of our discussions today. Cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin in particular have often been associated in the public discourse with shady criminal activities. But we look at how decentralized currencies can also help strengthen independent journalism and support human rights defenders in countries at risk. Data is becoming an essential aspect of human rights, and with new digital frontiers emerging, such as the metaverse, experts are warning of new risks that must be addressed right now. How far can existing laws and policies protect and regulate our privacy, our autonomy, and our fundamental rights? Well, we'll be putting these questions to some of the leaders working on these issues. Among them, Gabriela Ramos, Assistant Director General for Social and Human Sciences at UNESCO. We'll also have an opportunity to go back in time and revisit the Cambridge Analytica scandal, a scandal which became known as the Great Hack and came to symbolize the dark side of social media. You will remember what happened. Cambridge Analytica used data from 87 million Facebook users to influence their voting decisions ahead of the 2016 US election and the Brexit referendum. 5 years on, what has changed? Has this model of surveillance capitalism, to quote Shoshana Zuboff, been restrained by the laws and regulations introduced so far? Or could another great hack happen again? I said earlier that media freedom is the cornerstone of democracy. But the vital role that journalists play is increasingly under attack. Each year, RSF, Reporters Without Borders, releases the World Press Freedom Index. This year, the ranking identifies as very bad a record number of countries, 28 to be precise. In these 28 countries, RSF describes an environment dominated by news and information chaos, a toxic mix of disinformation fueled by social media and the shutdown of a free press by autocratic regimes. This last is increasingly evident in Afghanistan, where the Taliban have killed independent press, targeting women journalists in particular. In Myanmar, since the military coup in February last year, journalists are systemically silenced. Many have gone into hiding. In China, independent journalists are being threatened and detained. And in Russia, well, in Russia, the situation has become so critical that thousands of journalists have fled the country seeking asylum in many parts of Europe. Since the start of the war in Ukraine, Russia has introduced fake news and disinformation laws. Reporters who dare to interrogate the party line are accused of spreading false information and face up to 15 years in jail. All Russian independent media outlets have been shut down. The latest casualty is Novaya Gazeta, one of the most authoritative newspapers in the country. Its media license was revoked last month. In just a few minutes, we'll be hearing from Novaya Gazeta's editor-in-chief, Dmitry Muratov, who received the Nobel Peace Prize just a year ago precisely for his efforts to uphold independent news reporting in Russia. For safety reasons, you'll understand Dmitry, unfortunately, cannot be here with us in person, but you will hear his thoughts on the importance of press freedom. We're truly honored to have Dmitry at Trust Conference. His courage really embodies the core principle of free and independent journalism. Today, we'd also hear from several other exceptional reporters whose courage deserves to be recognized. We are delighted to host the winners of the Karl Schork Awards in International Journalism, and I am personally looking forward to hearing their powerful stories. Named in honor of Karl Schork, one of the finest war correspondents of our time who was killed in Sierra Leone while on assignment for Reuters, the awards recognized freelancer, local reporters, and news fixers for the critical role they play in reporting conflict, corruption, and injustice. We are proud to host the awards in partnership with the Karl Schork Memorial Fund, and we are so excited to have with us one of the most respected journalists in the world, Christiana Mampour, who will facilitate this powerful conversation. These awards have never been more critical. And that's because accurate and balanced news reporting is under attack. According to INSEE, the International News Safety Institute, 60 journalists and media staff have been killed since the beginning of the year, 4 more than last year. But what the number doesn't include is the mounting harm that countless journalists are experiencing every day because of the many legal tactics deployed to silence them. Around the world, we are witnessing a dangerous rise in lawfare, the use of law as a weapon against reporters. Journalists are increasingly facing a wide range of lawsuits designed precisely to hamper their work. They are being accused of corruption, fraud, money laundering, in an effort to stop them from carrying out their ultimate mission, truth-telling. As a result of these lawsuits, hundreds of journalists are forced to defend themselves in costly court cases that often bankrupt them, tarnish their reputation, and ultimately silence them. Today, we'll be assessing the emerging legal trends hampering media freedom around the world, the impact on the profession, and what legal resources can be deployed to support the journalists who are experiencing this new danger. One of the most immediate consequences of lawfare is, of course, the erosion of trust in journalism. Because when a reporter is accused of corruption, well, until proven innocent, his or her reputation is inevitably stained. According to the Edelman Trust Barometer, 67% of people believe that journalists intentionally try to mislead the public, an increase of 8% from last year. Confidence in media has fallen in 15 countries, and more people than ever are now expressing concern over fake news. This erosion of trust comes at a time when the profession itself continues to be challenged by changing business models and consumption trends. To adapt, survive, and thrive, newsroom must be able to invest in technology and must be able to innovate. That's a big challenge that not every media organization can rise to, especially if operating in difficult circumstances. Think, for example, of a small media outlet producing independent journalism in a country where media freedom is being directly challenged. And so it's fascinating to see how blockchain, and in particular Bitcoin here, are emerging as a contender in the race to protect media freedom. The decentralization model that is at the essence of blockchain opens up a world of possibilities. It can be used to prove the origins of photographs, for example. It can be used to redress the power imbalance between author and publishing platforms, and even to fund reporters securely, circumventing the traditional banking model in countries where free media is under attack. The use of blockchain technology is gradually being embraced by a wide range of actors, and industry experts are now predicting that the blockchain market for media and entertainment will be worth $1 billion by next year. But how ready is the media industry to embrace this change? And what are the risks in adopting this approach? Our speakers will discuss challenges and opportunities ahead. I'm also very happy to say that today we'll be welcoming here at Trust Conference a very special guest, our dear colleague Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe. As many of you will know, Nazanin was imprisoned in Iran for 6 long years, separated from her family by a regime that uses hostage-taking as a foreign policy tool. On March 16, the team and I were so happy to see live on TV our colleague emerging from that plane. Nazanin will join us on stage to share her story and to talk about the ongoing uprising in Iran, where women from all walks of life are demanding change, and where their government, as a result, is shutting down the internet in a desperate attempt to limit the flow of free and independent information. Nazanin's courage, resilience, and determination are remarkable, and I really can't wait to hear from her. Finally, I'm excited to welcome back to Trust Conference all the participants to the Change Makers program. Now, in its 9th year, the initiative brings together some of the world's most extraordinary human rights defenders, activists, innovators, and journalists who are committed to shining a light on the many issues covered here at Trust Conference. Thanks to Foundation Botnar, this year, our program enabled 8 change makers from India, Indonesia, Ghana, Senegal, Tanzania, and Romania to receive journalism and communication training. They are all here, and we'll be hearing from some of them later on today. You will have also seen that this year we have a new media partner, Context. Context is our new editorial platform. It offers news and analysis on 3 of the world's most pressing issues, some of the most pressing issues of our time: climate, the impact of technology on society, and the need for more inclusive economies. If you haven't done it yet, visit context.news. You'll find a perfect alignment between the themes discussed here on stage and the content produced by our newsroom. As always, we encourage you to join the conversation. Let's make sure that what's discussed here on stage reaches others around the world. And so please do share your insights and your reaction using the hashtag TC2022. You can also follow our live Twitter feed at TrustConf. And if you haven't done it yet, download the Trust Conference app. In the app, you'll find the program. The app will also allow you to connect with other delegates here in the room. And information on how to use and access the app should be in your inbox. Details are also on screens across the venue. And if in doubt, please ask one of the Trust Conference volunteers. Now, I want to take the opportunity to thank all our speakers who make this year's program really exceptional. And of course, I would like to thank my team at the Thomson Reuters Foundation. The team has worked so hard to make this all happen, from the content to the logistics to the videos and the graphics. They did a fantastic job. So thank you, team. Your work has really paid off. Thank you. And none, of course, would have happened without the support of our platinum sponsors, White & Case and the People's Postcode Lottery. Thanks also to Foundation Botnar for supporting our Changemakers program, and we're also incredibly grateful to Boston Consulting Group and Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights for their generosity. And now let's kick it off. We have 2 keynote speakers taking the stage in just a few moments Thomson Reuters CEO Steve Asker, who is one of the strongest supporters of the foundation and without whom this conference simply wouldn't be possible, and Dmitry Muratov, editor-in-chief of Novaya Gazeta and Nobel Peace Prize laureate. Media freedom, sustainability, socioeconomic inclusion, and human rights go hand in hand all over the world. Strengthening this ecosystem as a whole means strengthening democratic institutions, protecting the planet, and advancing the lives and liberties of all citizens so that no one is left behind. With your help, with your contribution, with your insights, we can strengthen this ecosystem as a whole. And this is what Trust Conference is all about.